This entire year has been a disaster for the Cleveland Browns organization, and specifically for Deshaun Watson, as basically the entire city of Cleveland doesn't want him there anymore. They don't want him playing quarterback. And that has very little to do with all the off the field issues. And it has way more to do with the fact that he's just been the worst quarterback in the league throughout the first several games, and even going back to last year. Well, that decision got taken out of the coach's hands because Deshaun Watson ruptured his Achilles during this game. Deshaun Watson's season is ended by ruptured Achilles tendon. Browns say the quarterback will have surgery, and you could see it happen on the field. We seem to be seeing this injury quite often over the past couple of years, especially at the quarterback position on, things like this. But here you can see it. You see the tendon snap. You see the reverberation through the calf. You see Deshaun Watson go down. It was very obvious immediately that this was an Achilles, and that has been confirmed. And this was the scene. And this is what everybody was talking about after the fact, because while Deshaun Watson was down on the ground injured, you had some Browns fans out there that were cheering. You had some Browns fans out there that were cheering the fact that Deshaun Watson might not be playing for them, at least not this year anymore. And this was him going off the field crying.
Just an unbelievable scene. Deshaun Watson carted off the field. This was seconds ago.
I'm going to pause it right here so I don't get hit by copyright. But here's Deshaun Watson. You're about to see him literally break down.
Both teams giving him words of encouragement. See the emotion.
It has been a rough season for Deshaun Watson. Now, the story that I think is here is that Browns players, including Myles Garrett, including Jameis Winston, they're lashing out at the fans. I don't think that it's the majority of the stadium was cheering an Achilles injury from Deshaun Watson. For people that are, happy that Deshaun Watson's not playing, I think it has very little to do with all the off the field shit. We've talked about that. I don't think Deshaun Watson's the best person. I think there's a lot of people in the NFL that aren't the best people. What people actually care about is what you're doing on the field. And Deshaun Watson has been dog shit for them. And the Cleveland Browns organization has refused to play anybody else but Deshaun Watson, despite knowing that he's not the best option for this team. But to have Myles Garrett, Jameis Winston, LeBron James out there, essentially chastising fans for the way that they react to the Deshaun Watson injury, that's what I think is the crazy part of this story. Jameis Winston says, I was taught to love everybody, and I hate to see fans acting like that, blah, blah, blah. Jameis Winston, who also has settled a case outside of court for sexual assault. We know Deshaun Watson's story. Myles Garrett saying the same fucking thing. Myles Garrett calling it bullshit effectively that this would happen. Myles Garrett is the guy, by the way, that literally tried to murder Mason Rudolph on the field and then lied and said he said a racial slur to the point where black head coach Mike Tomlin had to call up the NFL and say that's bullshit. It didn't happen. He's lying about race bullshit to get out of this punishment. But they're saying Deshaun Watson is just a great dude, and it's terrible to see people rooting against him. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I would have done, Beardo. I don't know what I would have done if I were a Browns fan and I was there. And I certainly don't think it was the vast majority of people cheering that Deshaun Watson had ruptured his Achilles. But there's a lot of Browns fans that are happy that Deshaun Watson's not going to be on the field for them, period.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, we've seen it before where players who are, performing or not performing, just take that out of the equation. When you see a player go down and it's a significant injury, and when they get up on a cart and they are escorted out of the field through the tunnel, there's usually a massive amount of applause. Usually you see the player give a thumbs up saying, hey, I'm okay. Everything's going to be okay. The team's going to be fine. And then you hear a massive amount of applause coming from the fans and the crowd. And I think that's probably more likely what happened yesterday. Sure, there's probably going to be a few bitter, arrogant Browns fans who are cheering for an injury, which I do think that that is scum-like behavior to root for an injury. Listen, if Dak Prescott got injured again next weekend, I'm not going to be cheering and making fun of Dak Prescott for getting injured, okay? You don't, if you're a sports fan, you do not cheer for injury. I'm sure that there might have been a few in yesterday's game. I do not think that was the majority of what was going on yesterday when you heard the applause when Deshaun Watson was getting carted off the field. More likely it was the fans cheering that he's going to be okay.
That he's going off the field, exactly.
Right.
And you know, I did see a couple videos, handful of videos of people actually cheering. And what I hate is the fact that you have so many people that are trying to make Deshaun Watson into some kind of victim. You need to feel bad for him because of this. Listen, if Deshaun Watson was killed or murdered or something, maybe you can talk about it. This is a guy who, regardless, is getting paid $220 million guaranteed, I think, for the entire course of the contract from the Cleveland Browns. He's playing like shit. Deshaun Watson's going to be perfectly fine, okay? And the need from people like Myles Garrett to say that Deshaun Watson is a stand-up guy is a little crazy. And the painting of Deshaun Watson as a victim, the media being like, listen to Jameis Winston's powerful speech, slamming Cleveland Browns fans. Fuck you. The reason that people, the Browns fans, if they were cheering, the reason that they're cheering is not because maybe they think Deshaun Watson's a piece of shit. It's because he's played shitty on the field, bottom line. And the Browns, they did not listen to the fan base at all. They played Deshaun Watson. And even in this game, Jameis Winston went from the backup to being the emergency third string guy. So the Browns fans couldn't ask for him to be in the game. The Browns have done that. This is a fan base that's very upset at their organization. And
well,
so
did Jameis Winston not leave the game because he got poked in the eye or he had something wrong with his eye?
Jameis Winston was the emergency guy. So the guy that you have designated for your emergency quarterback. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I think that's his name, from UCLA, right? He was the second string guy. So when Deshaun goes down, Dorian Thompson-Robinson goes in there. And then he goes down. That's what led to Jameis Winston being in the game.
Right.
And they made that move, not because DTR is a better option for the Browns offensively, but because they didn't want the pressure of Cleveland Browns fans asking for Jameis to be in the game.
Interesting. Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah. So that is why there's a lot of frustration. And that's why a lot of people, regardless of the circumstances, are relieved that Deshaun Watson is not going to be playing anymore this year for the Cleveland Browns.